I freeze. I actually can't move. Did she really just say that? After I just paid our rent? What happens after I work a 12-hour shift? After she made exactly zero contributions to our household today? Before I can react, she swings her arm across the coffee table, knocking the food on the floor. The soda explodes on our carpet. Try again tomorrow, idiot. That's when something inside of me clicked. As if you've been attempting to solve a jigsaw and suddenly all of the parts fall into place, revealing the entire picture. I've been married for 4 years but have never been a husband. I am a wallet with a pulse. I've always paid for everything. Initially it was because Skylar was between jobs. Then it was because she was discovering her passion. Then it was because the job market was extremely competitive. Then it was because she was experiencing burnout. The justifications changed, but the fact remained the same. My paycheck came in. Nothing went out. Meanwhile, her own spending has continued unabated. New clothing, expensive skincare, constant meal delivery, because cooking is so draining. Every time I mention it, I'm the bad guy. I am financially abusive for questioning where our money is going. I'm controlling for proposing a budget. I am unsupportive for asking why she needs another $300 pair of shoes. Standing there, watching the drink seep into our carpet, which I will undoubtedly clean, something in me died. Or maybe you woke up. I do not know. I did not yell. I did not argue. I simply turned around, walked outside, got into my car, and drove away. She was left sitting there with her phone, attitude, and mess. I drove aimlessly for a bit and ended up in this parking lot, writing this post on my phone since I literally had no one to talk to about it. Skylar made certain of that over the years. My pals were losers, and my family was toxic. It's funny how everyone who could have had my back became problematic. My phone has been blowing up for the last hour. Text after text, first angry. Where TF are you? Then manipulative. I'm scared. Please come home. Then gaslighting. You're overreacting. It was just a joke. And now the sobbing apologies. I'm so sorry, baby. Please come home. I didn't mean it. I have not replied to any of them. Instead, I've been doing mathematics. Cold, hard mathematics. Over the last 4 years, I've spent around $192,000 on our living expenses, bills, and her personal spending. In exchange, she has contributed almost $18,000 over the brief time she worked. And that's just the financial aspect. I won't even talk about the emotional labor, the housework I do despite working full-time, the continual walking on eggshells, the friends I've lost, the family events I've missed, and the dreams I've put on hold. I guess I've been in denial for 4 years, convincing myself that things will improve once she found the appropriate job. We had more money, and she was less stressed. When? But tonight, witnessing her throw perfectly fine food out while calling me an idiot, I realize the truth. There's no when. This is it. This is who she is. This describes who we are. Alternatively, this is who we were. I'm done being a walking ATM. Tomorrow, I'll open a new bank account with a different bank. I'm going to divert my direct deposit. I'm going to phone a lawyer. And I'm going to figure out what divorce looks like after 4 years of providing someone's financial support. I'm not sure what she will do when the money runs out. Probably call her parents, who are reputed to be nasty, but she has no problem accepting their birthday checks. Maybe she should obtain a real job or find another sucker to pay for her lifestyle. Not my concern anymore. So, that's where I am at. I'm sitting in my car at almost 3 a.m., plotting my departure strategy from a marriage that I'm quite sure has been one-sided since the beginning. Surprisingly, I feel relieved. It feels like I can breathe for the first time in years. Has anyone else experienced something similar? Any suggestions on how to preserve my finances throughout a divorce? Because something tells me that when Skylar discovers her meal ticket is being walked out the door, things will become ugly quickly. Update 1. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone who supported my previous post. Waking up to hundreds of responses from folks who have been where I am was both uplifting and disheartening. Validating because I am not insane. Depressing, because there appear to be thousands of us walking ATMs out there. It's been 16 days since the gas station supper incident. 16 days of what I can only describe as financial warfare using spreadsheets instead of firearms. The morning after I wrote, I went straight to a credit union across town to create fresh accounts. The lady behind the desk continued giving me anxious looks as I stammered through my explanation of why I wanted accounts that my wife couldn't access. When I eventually stopped speaking, she simply slid a form over the desk and stated she'd seen it before. There is no judgment. There are no questions. It's just efficiency. That's when it dawned on me. This happens so frequently that they have a protocol. I redirected my direct deposit, which thankfully would not arrive until the next pay week. We left just enough money in our joint account to satisfy our immediate expenses. Then I spent 3 days creating spreadsheets, not just simple finances. I conducted a thorough forensic accounting on our marriage. 4 years of transactions organized into categories, with brief notes on what each was for. The findings were illuminating. Skylar had spent $11,642 in the last year alone on clothes, makeup, and what I generously classed as personal items. That's nearly $1,000 per month, on stuff, while I worked overtime and ate noodles for lunch to make ends meet. And the ends were not even meeting. We had $8,300 in credit card debt, which I was unaware of until I went through all of our accounts. It turns out that those forgot to pay instances applied to much more than just rent. I printed everything color-coded and with small sticky tabs. Because if I was going to end my marriage, I was going to do it with well-organized evidence. For the record, witnessing 4 years of financial abuse put out in Excel has strange psychological effects. I alternated between wanting to vomit and high-five myself for finally recognizing the reality. Skylar had changed dramatically by the time I returned home 3 days later. The apartment was spotless. She had prepared my favorite supper. She'd even put on her pricey cosmetics, which she saves for special occasions. The manipulation was so clear it was almost endearing. Imagine witnessing a toddler lie about eating cookies as their face is smeared with chocolate. I sat down at our kitchen table, set my binder of financial documents between us, and began chatting. Calmly. I explained that I was aware of my credit card debt, that I had misdirected my paycheck, that I had determined exactly how much of our joint expenses I would cover going forward, and how much she would have to contribute. For the first 30 seconds, she just stared, as if her brain couldn't comprehend the reality that I was actually sticking up for myself. Then came the waterworks. Then come the accusations. Then the promises of transformation. The typical manipulation trifecta. I'd seen it so many times that it almost seemed scripted. But this time, I did not fold. This time, I had my binder of truth and enough righteous rage to power a small city. When she realized that crying wasn't working, she changed tactics. She began to mention how her friend Lindsay had recently gone through a difficult time with her spouse, and had successfully resolved it. How marriage is about supporting one another during difficult times. If she got a job tomorrow, I'd be thrilled. I just turned to page 23 of my binder. The document has all of her past promises to find a job, properly dated and categorized by excuse. That's when things became ugly. She called me every single name in the book. Said I was financially abusing her by controlling the money. Said I'd always been cheap and weak. She claimed she only stayed with me out of pity. And you know what? The craziest part was that having her say all of it out loud made me feel better. As if she was finally being truthful for the first time in our marriage. That night, I moved into the extra room. Set up what my buddy Lawson refers to as a depression nest, consisting of a mattress on the floor, my laptop, and enough clothes to get by. It wasn't much, but it was mine. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night without waking up worried about finances. The following week felt like I was living with a stranger, who was changing personas to see which one would work best for me. One day, she'd be nice and sorry, preparing coffee, and inquiring about my day. The next moment, she'd be cold and aloof, slamming doors and moaning deeply. Then she'd be realistic, sitting down with job search websites and asking for my assistance with her resume. I remained nice, yet detached. Answered direct questions briefly. I didn't take the bait when she tried to start a fight. Gray rocking is a term used on the internet to describe when someone becomes so uninteresting and inattentive that they lose interest in attempting to persuade you. It turns out that it works. But the major changes began when the money ran out, roughly a week after I rerouted my salary. Her credit card was denied while trying to purchase delivery. I was in the guest room, But I could hear her on the phone,